I went to a comic shop recently, and while there were many kinds of comic books, including horror comics, as Halloween is just around the corner, most of what I saw when I stepped through the doors were thousands of pages of superhero comics. And you know what? I love superhero stuff. I think it's great. But I also know that it's not all that comics have to offer either. So for today, when I was thinking about what kind of comic I wanted to talk about, I thought, why not go over something that is sometimes spooky, sometimes silly, and is also a long-running franchise that is, or was at least for a long time, among the most popular non-superhero comic books. And the comic I'm talking about today, because you already know because you clicked on the video, is Archie. Well, more like the Archie franchise, because it is wacky, it is big, there is a lot to it. Now, while Archie has been running since 1941, which is about 84 years now, I get that some modern audiences might not be familiar with it, excluding a certain TV show I may or may not talk about in a little bit. The gist of Archie, for those who are unaware, is that we follow the carefree, slice-of-life adventures of teenager Archie Andrews alongside his best friend Jughead, two girls he's in a love triangle with named Betty and Veronica, and just the overall hijinks that ensue in their town, Riverdale. It's a very simple premise by design. And you know what? Simple, fun, ordinary adventures, they can be a good thing too. Nowadays, it's like every comic needs to be about the multiverse and dark timelines and world-level events and crossovers and whatever, you name it. I do understand why it appealed to a lot of people, especially, starting in the 1940s and the place that it has in the world of comic books. And I think we need more lighthearted comics like classic Archie in our darker times today. But as I mentioned, our day today is a little different than how it was, and especially in the comics world, the kind of topics and genres and stuff they do is different. So while you did have the classic Archie comics, which unfortunately ended back in 2020, there are a whole other bunch of takes on the Archie world. Yes, Archie gets multiversal. You do have the classic Archie timeline, but you also have the modern timeline, considered Archie Volume 2, which, as a side note, volumes in comics are weird because they usually denote the numbering of issues in a series, but sometimes comics go back to original numberings, ignoring the reset. It's a whole other thing. Anyway, New Riverdale was the name of the line of comics put out starting in 2015, going until about 2020 when things ended. And as of now, Archie mostly focuses on these weird, alternative, mostly horror stories. The series here, though, with the whole New Riverdale with Archie and Jughead and whatever, all the million other series and spin-offs, it was designed to be a modernized retelling of the Archie world, but it didn't last very long, and I think the reason is clear. It almost completely loses the charm of classic Archie when you try to modernize it. Speaking of horror stories and modernizations of Archie, arguably the most scary of them all is the TV show Riverdale, a horrible CW show in the same vein as like Smallville or Gotham, even continuing that same theme of naming the show after the town they live in, where it's kind of like the comics if you took the characters in name only and tried to make it really dark and edgy. By the end of the series, it devolves or evolves, depending on how you look at it, into just complete lunacy with superpowers and time travel and alternate dimensions. I think there's at one point, I guess maybe fairly early on in the show, where Archie gets sent to prison and it's like a juvenile detention center where they have underground fighting. It's like, what is this? But it did lead to one of the funniest scenes ever.
If we weren't here, we'd be in high school joining clubs, trying out for sports.
Not me. I dropped out in the 4th grade to run drugs to support my nana.
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football. But you will.
As for actual horror series with Archie, there are quite a few, but I think the one that sticks out the most to me is Afterlife with Archie. In this series, Jughead, he gets turned into a zombie indirectly due to Sabrina the Teenage Witch's magic. Which, that's another thing, if you didn't know, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she comes from Archie, and so does Josie and the Pussycats, if any of you have seen those old Boomerang promos years ago. But as for Zombie Archie, it's a very dark and depressing series watching the Archie world crumble as everyone gets infected and turned into zombies and whatnot. It's wild, it's crazy, it's weird, it's gross, but it's also something you'd kind of expect to see at some point with Archie, as comic books allow for all sorts of wild things. It's not like it's a series of like 400-page novels that release every couple of years. These are comic books that can release much more frequently and allow for wild experiments just like this. Although the story never concluded, it just kind of disappeared. It never wrapped up. There is also Life with Archie, which released much earlier, and this is where Afterlife got its name. This series follows the Archie crew as they age into adulthood, and while the subject matter is far more realistic, it's more for an adult audience, that doesn't stop them from getting more experimental with the storytelling, as the narrative is split in two. You have one timeline where Archie marries Betty, and another where he marries Veronica. So as I was saying, the quantity of comic books allows you to take more frequent risks like this. Oh, and Archie just gets straight up murdered at the end. He dies. But that's just one timeline. If only we had someone to manage all these random timelines and weird things. And we do. That's where we get Jughead, Time Police. Yeah, I'm just going to stop right here. I think I've made my point. There are some wild Archie timelines out there going in all different directions. But it doesn't just stop there, as these directions have also put Archie on the same paths as other iconic characters and comic storylines. It's kind of hard to even think of where to start, but I think one good place might be with Sonic the Hedgehog, as the Archie Comics publishing group put out a bunch of Sonic comics for quite some time, and they've even crossed over before. But you also have Archie meeting the Punisher, who mistakes Archie for a criminal before the two of them have to team up and save Veronica. And I think what is maybe the funniest of this crossovers is where Archie fights the Predator. He comes to Riverdale and starts killing everyone. There's so many psychotic crossovers, but I don't want to reveal all of this to you guys. I want you guys to go out there and see some of it for yourself. There's so many wild, crazy things with Archie. Not everything in the world is about superheroes. There are so many people out there who only watch superhero movies, only play superhero video games, only read superhero comics if they even bother to read books at all. But there's so much more to life than one particular genre, especially when it comes to the entire medium that is comic books. If you're only exposing yourself to one thing, you're missing out on everything else the world has to offer. So while I don't think Archie is a work of literary genius, there is so much fun, lighthearted, and also incredibly dark and weird stories that exist out there to entertain you. The sheer quantity of Archie comics covers so many topics, so many genres, as well as artistic and literary styles, that if you want something new to read, here you go. And if you've only been reading the same kinds of superhero stories over and over again, well, this could be something to look into as well. There's more than just superhero stuff out there, and I mean that about everything. I don't really care if you go read it yourself. The point of this video is just to say, hey, Archie, it's kind of crazy, and there's more to life than superheroes. Here's one possible route you can take to read something that isn't superhero related. But that's all I've got to say. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on Archie or any of the things I rambled about. If you've seen Riverdale, I'm sure you hate the show, or maybe you like it. I don't know why. But that's all I've got to say. Until next time, take care.